So glad to know you're still with us. Now let's delve into other issues. We would get back to the stock market as the show goes on. Well, flight operations were on Monday, April 17th, disrupted across the country following the two-day strike that was embarked upon by unions in the aviation sector to protest what they described as unpalatable working conditions. Consequently, both international and local flights were affected as air travelers could not access the airport. The traffic gridlock that trailed the aviation union strike was particularly serious at the Murtala Muhammad International Airport, Lagos, and the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja. The unions involved include the National Union of Air Transport Employees, NUATE, the Air Transport Services Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, the National Association of Aircraft Pilots and Engineers, and the Association of Nigerian Aviation Professionals, ANAP. Now, before we delve into the meat of this conversation, let's take a listen to this report to get a feel of what this industrial action is about.
The protest is on three principal issues. One is the fact that since 2019, when we had a new minimum wage, two particular agencies in the aviation industry are yet to benefit from that act. That is NIMET and AIB. Despite necessary approvals that have been given, they have not been paid. And that is one of the legs of the disagreements. The second is that the conditions of service for some of the agencies which had been gone through due process, some of them for up to 13 years, have been lying fallow at the Salaries and Wages Commission and the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation.
So I'm still wondering whether we could fly to Leh or not. So you're not aware of this situation? I'm not aware at all. I don't have any idea at all. It's quite unfortunate.
Are you hopeful that you'll still be able to make your journey?
I wouldn't know. By the time we get to the airport, we'll know whether there will be a flight or not. So we don't know yet.
Well, of course, some grouses raised by the aviation workers there. Now, let's delve into the meat of this discussion. And joining me to do that is Olumide Onwayo, aviation analyst and member of the Aviation Safety Roundtable. Good to have you on the show. Good morning. Now, flight operations were disrupted since yesterday across the country following the two-day strike embarked upon by unions in the aviation sector. And this is to protest what they described as unpalatable working conditions. But of course, this isn't the first time the union will be embarking on industrial actions over poor welfare. The last before this was in May 2022, and of course, they raised some concerns back then. What would you attribute all of these industrial actions that keep coming up to?
I think what I see is a poor industrial communications between all parties. That is noticeable because it was not me. There was another strike around in November whereby the MM2 management had issues. Then I think early this year there was one that involved the SACOL staff, and then that stopped there's some international airlines from operating into Nigeria on that day, and those that landed could not get their passengers out of the aircraft, and that caused some very bad PR for the Nigerian aviation industry. So the unions has always had issues to strike, and why they use the strike, which is always the last option, as the most potent option is what we do not know in the industry, and I think we need to address that. And this does not only with the government agencies and the Ministry of Aviation, but also some of the parastatals within the main, some of the organizations within the aviation industry that are unionized. But they need to improve the communication between the management, staff, and the union members. If that is done, then we'll not be seeing the reduction in the in the current strike we see in the industry. And for us and some other stakeholders, we are not too happy with this concurrent strike, because it has its financial effect on the other organizations that are not part of the strike, and they all have to suffer this pain. And why do you want to save about 10 workers or 15 workers, then lose then about another 10 will now lose their job due to the poor handling of the strike actions that disturb all other businesses. Some business organizations have left the airport premises due to strike. I remember the last one, a catering firm that had its product ready for the airlines in the morning and for its eating service at the airport, could not get across, and all wasted. And that firm had to leave the airport premises. So it's not always been positive for us in the industry with the concurrent strikes. But then all the registry authorities need to discuss with the unions and ensure you avoid such strikes.
Well, there's no gainsaying the debilitating impact that this usually has, not just on the aviation sector, but even on the business environment generally. But this strike looks like something that could have been prevented, because it was said to have followed a meeting called by the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, which ended in a stalemate on Sunday. And we heard the Director General Civil Aviation, Captain Musa Nuhu, calling the meeting aimed at prevailing on the unions to shelve their planned 2-day warning strike, with representatives of the unions in attendance. What do you think could have been done to prevent this, seeing that it's been happening over and over again? You talked about the fact that there was a recent one in January. It means that all of these grouses, all of these grievances are not being attended to. What could have been done to prevent this current one?
I think what the trend now is that the unions are not doing it individually. They come together under the ALGA, the Joint Aviation Unions, to address industry issues. So when they come together, when you see ATSA and NOATE, NAPE come together on a position, it brings about total shutdown. In the past, when they go to it individually, it might not work, because some sections of workers would be working trying to sabotage. But now that they're doing it jointly, it takes down the industry and stops all form of commercial activities within the airport. Again, coming to the question you asked me, why did the DGNCA have to wait till Sunday to discuss the union when they've announced Monday and Tuesday for the commencement of the news some time ago? Why did they have to wait till Sunday? And the unions refused to meet them on Sunday. They tried to call a Zoom meeting thereafter. The union also refused to meet with them. Now, the issue on Ghana has been on for about 7 years with respect to the consequent wage increment and the condition of service. So now the government is on their way out just about 6 weeks to go, and suddenly the union just woke up to realize that all these things have not been addressed. That's why I fault the unions. You've been whining and dining with the minister for the past 7.5 years, close to 8 years. This issue would have been handled. Now, barely a month to go, we are all thrown into the basket of trouble now, that I will call it, and now the strike has come. All these things would have been handled before. I think they were too close to the ministry. They went and died, and that's led to the delay in this most important thing that they needed for their union existence, which is the condition of service of their members. That was not properly
Sorry to button, but you also alluded to the fact that they have been having industrial actions before now. Has that been towards other concerns?
Oh yes. Also, it has to do with other issues, but not this is a different one entirely. And I think you see, the beauty of the aviation is, if you want safety, then your want safety and continuous improvement of safety and security within the industry, then your workers' remunerations must be on time, good and competitive, and that is what we need to do to keep critical officers in place in the aviation industry. But what has happened in the last 6 years is that the ministry have been employing all sorts of manners of people and throwing them into these agencies, suffocating the little finances they have to operate.
Sadly. Well, in 2018, the aviation workers joined Nigeria Labour Congress to press the government for the 30,000 naira minimum wage. Of course, back then it wasn't yet ratified, but eventually it was ratified in 2019. And here we are again. with the union still lamenting non-implementation of this same minimum wage consequential adjustment and arrears for the Nigeria Meteorological Agency, NIMET. And of course, you saw the clips we watched before we began this conversation, where they also talked about the AIB also not getting the implementation of this minimum wage. What exactly is delaying this implementation, if I may ask?
I can tell you that the agencies are listened to the unions and have promised to address it. But again, it's late. It's a bit late. Again, and in that letter, no fixed date was given for the implementation. The agencies can pay, but before they do that, they need to first rationalize the quality and number of staff in each of these agencies.
All right, Olumide, while you're there addressing this aviation workers' strike, which began yesterday, and talking to us about some of their grouses and how they should be addressed. Olumide, can you hear me? Are you back with us now?
Clearly.
All right, go ahead, please.
Yes, I said the agencies can pay. They have the power, the financial power to pay, and they promised in their recent letter that was issued yesterday that they are ready to pay. But you see, what's delayed the implementation? That's what the agencies need to tell the world why they delayed in implementing it. Again, before you can implement that, you need to go back to the staff strength and the structure, the staff structure within the agencies. In 2015, the number of staff that you have today has doubled what was handed over to the Minister of Aviation in 2015. And why are you expanding the staff when the services provided are not expanding, or the revenue generation has expanded? So we just dumped staff from a particular region onto all the ministries, and now they are overstaffed, they are overpacked, and they need to finances to pay for this stuff that are thrown into those agencies up till tomorrow morning. They are still throwing stuff into all the agencies, and the agencies are complaining they cannot even pay those on ground, and they are still throwing more stuff without any advert for those jobs.
It's really a big, kettle of fish, but of course there are ways to tackle this issue, and we will talk about that. But quickly, before we talk about solutions, let's talk about the planned demolition, which is of course one of the issues raised by the aviation workers. They have talked about the planned demolition of all the agency buildings in Lagos by the Minister of Aviation for an airport city project. Now, the Minister of Aviation, on his part, as Hadi Sirika, has explained that the demolition of these buildings, is because these buildings are obstructing the runway, and that it is in the public interest and an administrative issue that can be sorted in-house. What's your perspective on this comment?
I find that laughable. And I think we're mixing two things here. There's a demolition of the agencies in Lagos for the airport city project, and then there's a demolition of the hangars at International Airport, Evergreen and Dominion hangars, for the airport apron expansion project. Okay. Now they've demolished some buildings for over 3 years for the same expansion, and nothing has been done. With the expansion program till date. Now, these two that they want to demolish now are owned by private individuals who have invested their resources in building that hangar. They did not just go and place the hangar there. They got approval from government to put that hangar there. So if you have to move that hangar or demolish it, you must pay compensation, agree with the owners on a time frame to move it, and not just a fiat order from the Minister of Aviation. Now, you have about 6 weeks away to hand over. The minister is supposed to be in transition now, preparing the handover, not implementing new projects. You've had 7.5 years. Go and prepare the handover. Let us see what you have done with the funds you have collected, the contracts you have awarded. Let us see. Submit it to the incoming government. Where you have gotten to, whether you have started some or you've not started any, and those you have paid for and those you have not paid for. Just submit your handover report and stop trying to implement anything in the next 6 weeks. We are supposed to be coasting home and preparing for the new government, and not prepare any trouble or problems for the new government. So it's surprising that if you want to demolish, you had the whole 7.5 years, you didn't demolish. Leave it. Let the new government decide if they want to continue on the airport project or not. It's the time frame is too short to do that. So all you want to do is just demolish and walk away. Then it will be reported from the industry, just as you do with the Nigerian Air. Today, almost every program of this government in the aviation industry is under litigation. Is it the airport concession? Is it the Nigerian air project? And the orders that he promised has not started up to today. This is about 7.5 years. So why are you pushing anything now? Just stop where you have gotten to and hand over everything. Prepare your transition. Why put this put the industry in crisis or the incoming government and you want to hand over crisis to them? And that's what I see here. The minister is overpowerful. We're happy to be under the Ministry of Transportation before 2015. They came in and moved the aviation away from there and made a standalone ministry, and that has caused us more problems, more pains than gains.
There's apparently a lot to tackle, especially when it comes to some of the pains and the challenges that is being faced in the aviation sector. And this isn't the first time, you know, we have been having this conversation over time, and one would expect that there should be some form of improvement and reprieve for those in that sector. But let's assess the impact of this on businesses, seeing that both international and local flights were affected. Air travelers could not access the airport. The traffic gridlock was reportedly serious at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, and also the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja. What do you think this would mean for business owners and especially the traveling public?
Well, for me, the business owners have suffered some losses due to this action, and it's continuing today. Today is the last day. And then the passengers, with the cherished passengers who are still managing to fly despite inadequacies in the industry and our affairs, are also made to trek and suffer from this activity and action. And I really sympathize with the Nigerian public who are travelers who have remained with the industry, and I know who not, if not for the insecurity, would have looked at other mode of transportation to use. But you see, we just need to get our acts together and make sure we return our country to efficiency. As of today, the foreign direct investment into the aviation industry is very poor. This is due to our poor handling of the foreign airlines by not remitting their funds, and the other insecurity and the forex regime, which has been fluctuating and does not have a stable course.
Well, we have about 30 seconds to wrap this up, but it is a very interesting conversation. I'd like to get your final thoughts on what you think is the way forward, especially looking at the potpourri of issues that the aviation sector is faced with.
I think the first thing now is for the minister to stand down all actions in the industry and prepare his handover notes. Sincerely, that's the solution to whatever. He should stand down all actions and prepare his handover. Even those that he has not been able to complete with the union, he should prepare his handover notes so the incoming government can take off from there. And on the issue of the airport concession, demolition of agency building, demolition of other hangars, all those actions should stand down until the new government comes in and takes a review or a look at that program.
Quite passionate and insightful comments there. Thank you so much for the sterling contribution, Olumide Owayo, aviation analyst and member of the Aviation Safety Roundtable. It's been good having you on the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, still to come after the break, following the recent collapse of a 7-story building in Banana Island, Lagos, some experts have urged the government to take more drastic measures to put an end to the menace claiming the lives of innocent citizens. We'll take a look at this and the imports of this for the economy after this break. Don't go anywhere.